Beverly here. Thank you for listening. 54 degrees now in downtown Ponca City. And Shannon Mallory, the ag educator for the K County OSU Extension Office, has joined me. Good morning.
Good morning, Beverly.
I haven't seen you in about 2 weeks, but you've been so busy. I
Yes,
know. There's
we had
always
the Lahoma
something going
Field
on.
Day that we went to just west of Enid. That's our big research plot. I think it's 160 acres that was donated by somebody to do wheat research.
Right.
That was all. That was the only thing they designated for it. So we went out there and learned about all of the experimental varieties that they're doing. They're coming up with ones that you can plant as late as December and still see good grain yields from it. You wouldn't be able to graze them like some people do in the winter, like some of the wheat that we plant in September, October. But anyway, there's the world of wheat is exciting,
right?
For me, at least.
It's nice. It's nice too to have people that will donate a place for something like that.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not forgotten, that we can teach generation after generation.
Exactly.
Right.
So that was like a granted or a donated piece of land,
Right.
probably by someone's estate or something like that. But yeah, and then we had a spring calf health clinic a week ago Thursday, and then Friday we had our wheat field day at Don Schieber's farm and talked about the wheat varieties that we had out there, had an OSU sports update with Dave Hunziker and a couple of other really cool people who came out and visited and talked about just all different types of changes to wheat and things going on in the world of wheat. So that was a lot of fun. So I had a full week the past 2 weeks.
And I can see you're full of knowledge. You learned a lot.
Yeah.
So do the kids come to that, or is that just for the educators that...
Anyone in the public, any taxpayer,
any
taxpayer in Oklahoma, or I guess any U.S. taxpayer, or probably even visitors. Gosh, and stuff. Yeah, we're a taxpayer-funded organization, so all of our events are open to the public.
Awesome.
Yep, exactly. So today, though, I got back in the office most of the week this week, and was reviewing messages and emails and all types of things that people had sent us. One of the most common ones we got was, I can't get grass to grow in a spot in my yard. And you get to talking to people, and it's one of two things. It's either around a tree or on the east side of someone's house, or both.
Right.
And that is common shade problems. We've got too much shade, and we can't get things to grow under it.
For me, though, the east side of my house and then the west side of mine is the east side of my neighbor's. So... Mm-hmm. You've got sometimes problems on both sides of your house.
Yeah. So we're going to go over the common reasons that you can't get turf grass to grow in the shade.
Okay.
And number one, which is probably between two houses, is way too much shade.
Right.
Yeah. So for those ones, even the most shade-tolerant turf grasses that we have cannot tolerate heavy shade. We're talking less than 4 hours of direct sunlight. If we can, we're going to thin out tree branches in a tree. We're going to eliminate solid fences. If you've got a wood fence between you, that's going to keep you from getting sun for even 2 hours a day or something in a certain area. If those don't work, that's when we're then going to look at, as I call them, alternative shade options. Maybe putting some shade-type plants that are much more tolerant. Hostas are a very common one. Sometimes irises or bulbs that we buy each year and replenish can sprout up in that area so that we can have some landscaping. Otherwise, you're looking at mulching or doing kind of like a walkway or pathway or something in that area. And hey, those can be pretty too. Some areas just aren't meant for growing grass.
It is. That's true. That's true.
Yep, exactly. Number two, compacted soil. So a lot of our shadier areas get heavy foot traffic. So we talked about like between the houses and stuff. Well, you're always walking back between the backyard and the front yard that way without going through the house. So a lot of times we get heavy foot traffic, and this can be very hard to get seedlings to start, or even some of our more quality turf grasses, heavy foot traffic is still going to kill them a little bit and cause, we always see those little videos on TikTok or Instagram where like the dogs walk in the same path everywhere. We run into that a lot with dogs or pets walking in that area. Yeah. Number three, the wrong species or variety of grass. Everybody wants to plant Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is like in this area at least, is the token turf grass that we plant. So you'll go buy your sod, you'll put it down in a shady area, it'll look good for a little while, and then it'll slowly die back because it's not getting enough sun. Bermuda grass and buffalo grass are sun-loving grasses. If you can't get it to grow in that area, it probably just means that there's not enough sun in that area. We can try to figure out some other problems with that, but usually that just means that it's more suited for something like zoysia grass, which does okay in the shade, or something like tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass, something like that that's going to do a lot better in the shade. Again, still heavy shade wouldn't be good for any grasses, but something that gets 6 hours of sunlight a day, tall fescue might do pretty well in that area. Yep. And there are improved varieties that don't have such a broad blade on them. They get real fine bladed and look really, really nice.
I think that's what I planted because it's really tiny. It still looks like baby grass like all the time.
Right. Yeah. I would bet that that's the bluegrass.
It could be.
Yeah.
I bought 2 different kinds, but they're growing well. Though,
you'll see.
and in the shade. So.
You'll see a lot of stuff at our big box stores. And if you want something that will grow well, they offer a lot of varieties that have a mix of all 3 of those: tall fescue, perennial bluegrass, or annual bluegrass, and perennial ryegrass. And it'll cover that ground. Something should grow pretty well there. They're pretty tough plants, So if you're just looking to get something to grow there, great options.
Yeah, well, it worked for me because I didn't have much grass, a lot of dirt, a lot of mud.
A lot of dirt and mud.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I have grass this year. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Number 4, which maybe I should have put at number 1, improper soil fertility.
Okay.
Got to do a soil test. Got to figure out if we've got the nutrients there to even grow plants. If we don't have those there, we're definitely not going to grow anything, let alone in shade conditions that, plants need water, soil, and sunlight. If we're taking away 2 of those, it's definitely not going to grow there.
No.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, mowed the shade-tolerant grasses too low. A lot of our shade-tolerant grasses like to be at 3 inches or higher, especially during drought conditions. And we'll get into July, get those couple 100-degree days, and maybe we went home for the weekend or we visited somebody for the weekend and we didn't get some water out there on it. And it died.
Doesn't take long, does it?
No, it doesn't. And especially it being a shade-tolerant grass, it doesn't do as well in drought conditions and stuff. So don't mow it quite as frequently. Keep it at a higher height. As a general rule, each variety takes different things, but as a general rule, 3-inch mowing height for your shade grass varieties. And then the final one, reduce the irrigation timing. So we don't want standing water or just saturated soil like we do right now with the past 3 days of rain.
Yeah, right.
Finally had a sunny day, right? Yeah, we don't want saturated soil. Shaded areas don't dry out as quickly, and that can be just a wonderful environment to get diseases, pathogens, fungus to grow. Brown rot is really common in tall fescue, so make sure that we're not overwatering an area. So we just went from, drought problems to don't overwater as well. But I see a lot of people, you walk on their ground and it's kind of soggy out there. That wouldn't be good for shade grasses. It doesn't dry out quick enough for them. So those are a list of problem varieties. If you still have problems after trying a couple of those, or if you forgot a couple of the things that we said on air here, feel free to reach out to the K County OSU Extension Office, 580-362-3194. We would be glad to help you try to grow grass in your yard.
And you're located on the corner of
9th and Maple.
9th and Maple.
Yes, I'm remembering it now
Newkirk.
finally. We've been there, 4 months now, and I'm finally remembering the address.
9th and Maple. I'll try to remember that too.
Yes.
But, yeah, it's easy to find, just catty corner from the courthouse.
Yes, ma'am.
In Newkirk. All right.
Yeah.
Great information as always. So
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I definitely needed this help today.
Yes.
All right, thanks for coming in.
Good luck
Shannon.
out there, everybody.
And I'll see you next week. Here's Leonard.
26, Sean in the morning. Shannon Mallory will be with us coming up. And a full Bob update. Plus, we're going to be talking about growing grass in the shade. Is that yes? It is a thing. It is a concern. There are tips and tricks. We're going to find out. Shannon Mallory is going to give us the scoop. So stay close for late-breaking grass-growing news. That's and an update on Bob, the tomato plant that now lives and calls home, my balcony home, where I live. So, anyhow, first, it's news. Beverly Cantrell with that from the pages of PunketCityNow.com. It's brought to you by our friends. And trust me, that's coming up. Well, it's a particular challenge. It's growing grass in the shade.
Yeah, plants like water, soil, good soil,
And sunshine.
and sunshine, and
Yeah.
it's really tough when you don't get full sunshine.
Right. So we're going to talk all about that and give you some. And Shannon has some tips and tricks that'll help you out, because perhaps you have a beautiful lawn, and then you have one spot
One spot under
underneath
the tree,
and it's just a mud pit.
Yeah.
And
Right now, it very well may be a mud pit.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. But first, an update. Bob. Bob, when I first put him out on my balcony, he was nervous because Bob knew that I had a reputation.
He's like, you're a new,
Yeah.
you're kind of new to this plant thing. Yeah.
Bob, well, see, the bad thing for Bob is Bob was in this studio when he was hearing me ask all kinds of very elementary questions about his care. And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is not good.
It's like if you go to the doctor
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, how many times have you done this surgery? And they're like, oh, it's my first time. And
Right.
you're like, ah!
Exactly.
Exactly.
That was Bob. But Bob the tomato plant is doing well.
Great.
So I'm watering Bob when needed. But how do I know? Because I don't want to get somebody. Because see, here's the thing. Here's where a source of anxiety for me. I've had friends say, "Be sure you water Bob. You got to water Bob." And then I have another friend that comes along and says, "Don't water Bob too much." And then I'm like, and now I'm in this weird place where I'm like, is it too much? Is it not enough?
Yeah.
Help me,
An easy way to tell,
please.
is just a finger test. You reach over there. If you feel moisture in that soil, and you got to go past the surface. The surface is going to dry out the quickest.
Stick your finger in
Yeah,
it.
stick your finger in there. If you feel a little moisture in there, you're probably good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then most plants can handle wilting a little bit, and so if you see Bob wilting, that's a sign that, hey, we probably need to go out there and water it. Unless it's like 110 degrees outside, then you'll
Right.
see all plants wilting a little bit.
A little bit.
It's a response to make them lose less water.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I look for wilting during the day, and then at night, if it's still wilting when it's cooled off,
Yeah.
I definitely know it needs water.
Okay. So how do I know that Bob is thriving? Like,
Bob
what
is
are the
growing,
signs?
is getting bigger.
Getting bigger.
Yeah,
That's
tomato
it.
plants are just an annual, so they should be getting bigger throughout the year.
Okay.
It's not kind of like a tree where they grow really slow. So
I keep checking. I keep going out there, and I'm thinking one of these days I'm going to walk out there. There's going to be a big, juicy, ripe tomato waiting for me. How long am I going to have to wait for that?
Yeah, so one, you've got to see the yellow tomato blossoms first, and
Okay.
I haven't seen those on my same variety, Bob's brothers.
Yeah.
Same flat of plants that we got them from,
And
stuff.
Bob is so jealous that his brothers are with you.
Right.
And he's like, oh, wow.
And the rest of them are with master gardeners.
Yeah, right. Bob drew the short stick.
What short straw did I draw?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, mine haven't even started flowering yet, so it's still got plenty of time
Okay.
to flower. Just keep, monitoring watering. There should be enough nutrients in the potting soil that you put in there for the rest of the season.
Am I going to have fresh tomato for the 4th of July holiday?
It could be a tight window to have it done by then, because we're almost done with May. That's only 30 days.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tight window to get a tomato to
All
set.
right. So
Yeah.
I just don't want to rush Bob. I don't want to put too much pressure on Bob.
Yeah, don't be going like,
To
Bob,
feed
come
me.
on, we got a deadline
Come
to
on.
meet here, bud. Yeah,
What
you
is
might
it?
stress him out a little bit.
Right. Okay. Well, that's the update on Bob. Bob is doing well, and and thank you, by the way, for the bucket and the
You're welcome. Yeah.
the magic watering jug, which
a wicking
is
container.
a wicking container.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. I've got to remind them next week. We'll be talking about how to build wicking containers at the Canton Memorial Garden for Herb Fest.
Oh,
Yeah.
Herb Festival. Yes, Shannon Mallory will be there.
9 a.m. if you want to be an early bird and wake up and learn about that. I think I'm the opening speaker.
Oh, oh dear. Well, it's your chance to meet Shannon Mallory in person, and you hear him on the radio every Friday right here on the Sean in the Morning Show, and you can you welcome questions. You love to answer questions? And,
It's my job.
Yeah.
I actually truly enjoy it. It's solving a puzzle every time someone answers me, or calls a question.
Well, it's the Oklahoma State K County Cooperative Extension Service. Shannon Mallory's the ag educator. Let's get educated.
Oh.
Growing grass in the shade. How in the world do we do that? How can we best do this?
So it's a common question I get this time of year. I was kind of out of the office for 2 weeks doing all types of other work-related stuff, came back into a flood of messages and more people coming in this week. Common problem, I've got a bare area in my yard. I can't get grass to grow. First question I ask, is this under a tree or is this on the east side of your house?
Oh.
Probably 3 out of 4 times. Yes. You probably got a lot of shade in that area and you're trying to grow Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass loves sun, doesn't like less than 6 hours of direct sunlight.
So we need to get like an array of electrical sun lamps and put it out there on the ground. Is that right?
Not saying that wouldn't work. Probably would work pretty well. Might be a little cost prohibitive for most people.
I guess
not
so.
all of us can be big famous radio announcers.
Okay, so we don't need an array of heating lamps.
We don't need to cripple the power grid in Ponca City.
Okay.
Yes.
So what can we do?
Yeah. So these are common reasons that we have problems with it. Number one, way too much shade. Even your most shade tolerant turf grass varieties can't handle too much shade. So less than 4 hours of sunlight. If it's between 2 houses and you got a solid wood fence in there, it's probably too much shade.
Yeah.
We're just going to do some kind of non-living landscape there, and we might try a couple of plants like hostas. You can plant bulbs there, but you're going to have to replenish them each year. They're probably not going to come back very well.
Can we just plant a strain of grass? Is that the right phrasing?
A variety.
A variety. Thank you. Can we plant a variety of grass that perhaps thrives in shade?
There aren't any turf grasses that thrive in shade. Monkey grass is the only one that I can think of, and it's not even grass.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah,
it sounds fun though.
Yeah, exactly. It just say, hey, it's a monkey. Yeah,
monkey grass.
It'll take over your yard, and it's kind of hard to kill. But that's the reason it grows well in shade. Anyway, you may have chose the wrong variety of grass, as we talked about. Bermuda and buffalo grass love sun. They're probably not going to do well. Zoysia grass does a little better in shade, but still likes quite a bit of sun, and I wouldn't quite call it shade tolerant.
Okay.
Yeah. The ones that are more shade tolerant, we're talking 6 hours or less, or 6 to 4 hours of sunlight.
Right.
Tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, and perennial ryegrass.
Oh, yeah.
These 3 varieties do well in Oklahoma. They can handle maybe not our hot July heat, but the heat we had last weekend, they'll be okay in it. They won't thrive, but they'll be okay. But you can buy a lot of things at Big's box stores that have all 3 of those mixed in, and they'll usually sell it as a shade-tolerant mix or something. So look for that. Try that in an area. I wouldn't be a good extension educator if I didn't mention soil testing and making sure your pH is right and all your nutrients are there. That's a $10 soil test at the extension office. Test that before you go spend all the money on grass seed and tilling up the soil or doing anything like that.
Right.
Another common problem that we have, people mow shade grasses the same height as Bermuda. Bermuda loves being at like 1.5 inches to 2 inches in height.
Really?
Shade grass wants to be like 3 inches tall.
No.
So
really,
we get out there with the mower, we mow the Bermuda, and we don't adjust the height.
We make it look like a golf course.
Well, a dead golf course, unfortunately.
Right.
But we don't adjust the height for our shade grasses.
Okay.
A lot of our shade grasses, maximum cut. Don't cut them more than lower than 3 inches in height, especially during the dry season or during the hot season. They need more. They're not as tolerant to drought.
Okay,
so we need that. The final one, you even mentioned it with Bob. We want to reduce the irrigation frequency. If we've got water standing or our soil is saturated for a long period of time, in that shaded area, it doesn't dissipate as quickly as it does in full sun.
Okay.
So we've got to make sure that water drains properly, gets done, gets out of there, or we could start seeing some pathogen problems like some root rot. Brown rot is very common in tall fescue. So we've got to be careful with our watering practices as well. In short, shade should be treated differently than full sun, and it requires different inputs if you want a full lush yard.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can do some mulch landscaping around the tree.
Sure.
We can try those shade-tolerant plants like hostas and stuff. We can do a walkway through the areas where our grass isn't growing as well.
Yeah.
So there's all different types of ways that we can solve this shade issue, and
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to be growing grass in that area.
Right.
So,
You could take what I would refer to as the Brady Bunch solution and just, get some artificial turf and just.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. Hey, if you want to buy sod each year and resod it every year, you totally can do that too.
Yeah. So what's your favorite grass?
Me,
Yeah.
buffalo grass, 100%.
Really?
If I could get it's not easy to establish, but once established, you have a very drought-tolerant grass. You have a grass that doesn't grow terribly fast. It handles traffic pretty well if you get an improved variety. They've got ones that they put on sports fields.
Yeah.
Get a variety like that. You can walk all over it and stuff. But, I mean, you mow it less, you water it less. It's pretty easy to control weeds. It takes less nutrients than Bermuda grass to grow.
Sounds like you're describing the perfect grass.
It's tough to establish is the main thing, but once established, it's awesome.
Really?
Otherwise, in my yard, I've got a good improved variety of Bermuda grass where it's a variety that a lot of public golf courses will use in their fairways and tee boxes.
Okay.
Thin blade, looks really pretty. Relatively easy to take care of. I fertilize it probably 2 times during the summer and water it when it's really, really hot out.
Right.
Yeah, but I like it. Feels good between my toes.
Do you have, yeah, it does. You're
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So are you one of those people that do you treat your lawn like a golf course gets treated? Do you
Not
pride
100%
yourself in-
like that. It's a balance of not putting too much work into it, but still having a decent lawn.
Boy, there's some
Yeah.
lawns. These people, they work at it.
Yes, or they hire a professional.
Or they hire
Yeah.
a professional.
Yep.
And you drive by and you're like, my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to walk on. That's why people put up signs, don't walk on the grass. They're like,
I want to enjoy my lawn. I want to go out there and walk
want
on
to
it and
walk
stuff like
on
that.
it.
So yeah, I definitely do that. But yeah,
Exactly.
I do the weed control and stuff like that too. So yep.
all right. Shannon, Mallory, we always learn something new. And if we want to get in touch with the K County Cooperative Extension Office, how might we do this?
Easiest way would be giving us a phone call, 580-362-3194, or stopping by the office on the corner of 9th and Maple in Newkirk. That's still on the courthouse square, so to speak, but we're on the southwest corner now
see.
rather than in the courthouse. But we got our big new office. Come stop by, drop off your soil test, ask us questions, anything like that. We'll be glad to see you.
Yeah. So are you open to if I get in a pinch with Bob, I could perhaps text you and because I do have your number. I do. Can I just text
This is
you?
why I try not to give my number
I know,
out to
right?
those.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. See,
Yeah, but,
now
you
we're going to
know,
run into problems. Yeah.
11 o'clock at night, I'm like, Bob, I think Bob's thirsty. Should I?
Is there plant CPR?
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Starting to wilt. I don't know what to do. I don't know. Help me out, Shannon.
No, I can do my best, but I'm not an emergency call line.
Okay. Yeah. He's got good boundaries. I
There
like
you go.
that.
Right, yeah.
Shannon, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sean.
Dylan Scott on KPN.